The 2021 summit is a collaboration between LIM College and FashionDex.com. This year's sponsors are Tex World New York City and Apparel Sourcing New York City. I would like to invite Nancy Miller to come and welcome you all. Nancy.
Thank you, Monica. I'd like to begin by introducing myself. I'm Nancy Miller. I'm the chair of fashion merchandising and marketing here at LIM College. And it's wonderful to have you all here, both near and far, on behalf of the college, where sustainability is part not only of our curriculum, but part of our core values. It is my honor to kick off the 4th Annual Sustainability Summit. Today, we have assembled many thought leaders and agents of change. We have lots of speakers. We have students who are going to be a part of today. And I think you're going to learn and share and converse. So again, I'd like to thank you on behalf of LIM College and FashionDex.
Up next, we have a brief conversation with Saga Furs. With us, we have Charles Ross from Saga Fur and Sabrina Moscola from Jennifer Behr, who'll be moderating.
Charlie, thank you so much for being here with me today. And thank you everyone for being here talking about traceability. I had the honor of having Charlie in my class this week at LIM College. So I'm really excited to continue this conversation. And I guess we will jump right in. Charlie, I would love to know what traceability looks like at Saga Furs and why it's important.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, Sabrina and Andrea, to join the conference. Saga Furs, we've always been innovative thinkers and always preparing for the future. So we have, after 4 years of research, launched an RFID program of traceability called Saga Track. What this allows us to do is to monitor our fur pals throughout the entire supply chain using, advanced RFID technology. So we're able to mark the skins, transfer the data during the supply chain, and ultimately put all that information into an RFID label that could appear on a fur coat, trim, or accessory. So we're quite excited about this launch.
Great. You mentioned a really interesting fact in class this week, and I'd love you to mention it again to everyone listening today. You talked about the biodegradable rate of furs, and you compared it to something in nature.
Yes, I mean, I think we have put a lot of science behind our sustainability strategy. Obviously, we need to communicate this to brands and retailers and designers around the world. Fur farming, which is part of agriculture, has always had a part in circular economy. Before we even knew what the term was, it was just something that farmers did in the Nordic regions, including Finland, where we're located. So we have done life cycle analysis of our products in our supply chain. And one interesting fact that I shared with the students this week is that a fur coat, if you take off the buttons and the lining, will biodegrade at the same speed as a leaf. So we're pleased that we could take a fur coat that could last up to 20 years because it could be repaired and remodeled and restyled. And when it finally does go to a landfill, the rapid rate of the biodegradability, I think, leaves less of a footprint. We like to compare that to, say, something like a fake fur garment made from polyester that will biodegrade in about 300 years. So I think we have a strong statement about biodegradability in the fur supply chain.
I love that fact. And talking about fake fur versus real fur, what are some other reasons to buy real fur when it comes to sustainability?
Well, I think, the fashion world now is reviewing all sustainability strategies. And I think there has been in the past couple of months a movement towards polyester and plastic or fake fur or vegan leathers. I think I represent groups, parts of agriculture that represent natural fibers. So when I talk about furs, I talk about leather, I talk about wool, I talk about cashmere, I talk about alligator, I talk about down feathers. And these are all parts of nature, natural products that are all now sourced responsibly. So when we compare natural fibers versus synthetics, I think we have a very strong case and a very strong statement about future sustainability.
And going back to traceability for a moment, you mentioned that there's going to be an RFID tag. So if a consumer wanted to know where their fur coat has been, can you talk a little bit about that and where they would go to find that out?
Yes, so the RFID pilot launch, we are doing it in New York, Montreal, Milan, Paris, and in Beijing. So we have selected various substantial size designers and retailers to follow the supply chain up into the garment. So we have been able to attach RFID tags, which looks like a simple sew-in tag that has antennas embedded behind them. This will allow the consumer to use their cell phone, tap on the chip, and get the information about the brand, about the traceability. We're able to trace all the way back to the farms, and all the furs that we are tracing fall under the Fur Mark heading, which is a global certification standard. Saga in the past has strictly been a B2B business, but with this consumer experience that we can provide, we're working closely with our designer and brand partners to communicate messages that could assist in, at the retail level. So it's really a new experience for us. We started at the farm level, so we started in the agriculture. We work with designers, and now for the first time ever, we have our messages direct to consumer.
I love that initiative. Are there any other initiatives that Saga Furs has coming up to improve traceability?
Well, I think traceability is based upon having the belief that you must provide transparency to your stakeholders. Saga Furs, we're a publicly listed company, so that's something that's very important to us. We have to be transparent. We issue financial reports, we issue CSR reports, sustainability reports. So I think we're always looking to update what we do. We're always looking to share more information. Being public, everything is on our website. All our financials are on our website. Even during the pandemic, we've been extremely profitable this year. We have made initiatives like we sell our skins in an auction setting. We're located in Finland. We would fly in up to 600 buyers at a time. Partially due to the pandemic, we've gone online and we've done online auctions. So we've very much reduced our carbon footprint there. We are constantly adjusting to the reality of the fashion world. We sell our product in 20 different countries around the world, and we as an industry, a fur industry and a natural fibers industry, really work very hard to be transparent and also to reduce our carbon footprint.
And I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you ensure that the farms are working as responsibly as possible.
It's the cornerstone of everything we do. We have been working with the leading fashion brands since the 1980s. We've listened to what they need to give confidence to continue to use fur. So around 1988, the farming community decided that they were going to go beyond government recommendations in Europe and improve farming and animal welfare standards. So they created something called the Feed Fur Certification Program. This has 80 particular things that are inspected on a farm that go beyond the Council of Europe's recommendations. This is monitored by independent inspections, so it's not Saga Furs monitoring or inspecting our farms. And then after the independent inspector files his results, we bring in a third-party auditing company to validate the results of the results and also to validate the process. I think this has given great pride to the farmers to continue to improve their activities. This has clearly shown that we have a very strong environmental management program in place on the farms. And this has given confidence to both brands, retailers, and consumers that choose to work with fur, that the supply chain purchased by Saga Furs come from 100% certified farms. We collect from over 2,000 farms in Europe and North America. So this has been a huge investment by our company and by our industry. And I think it gives us all a feeling that we're doing the right thing, and it's been well received by the fashion brands.
You also mentioned this week the 4 R's. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, a lot of discussion about that this week. You know, circular economy is a cornerstone of everything we do on the farming level, where we manage the use of non-fit for human consumption feed products to feed the animals. We have a system of producing a organic phosphorus fertilizer that we then sell to local agriculture. We reduce the amount of petroleum used by trucks to bring it in. Local agriculture is not spraying chemicals on their fields. So that has always been a cornerstone of us. But as we go deeper into the supply chain, we also work with the fur. And a fur coat, you know, lasts 20 years because it could be repaired, remodeled. I mean, today, just go on the websites and resold. So I think by participating in you know, the longevity of a fur coat, I think is a really important environmental statement for us. I mean, what other product can a consumer take and really go into your grandmother or your mother's closet and take a fur coat and just update it with a skilled craftsman in New York or wherever you are around the world? And 20 years is a very strong statement on a piece of clothing. It's not, you know, it's kind of the opposite of fast fashion. It's really not disposable because of the value of it, but because you're able to extend the life of a fur coat.
Thank you. I have one question that came in that I would like to go to from the audience. This comes from Kimberly. How does Charlie or Saga feel about so many big brands and designers announcing that they will discontinue using fur?
I mean, I have been working in the fashion community with Saga for 20 years now. It's a big disappointment. I think that several of the brands that I've worked with closely made decisions based upon activists, based upon pressure, not based upon science. You know, in our business and business in general, when one door closes, another one opens. And what I'm happy to report, as some of the brands have gone out of fur, that the big European brands that have stayed in it are reporting sales increases up to 40%. So even during the pandemic, the people selling fur are showing increased sales. The price of our raw material, even during the pandemic, has doubled. So we find different supply chains. So if we lose a retailer, we lose a designer, you know, there's always somebody picking it up. At the bottom line, fur is a responsible luxury, and it's a profit center for many of the brands. So, you know, one guy drops it and another one picks it up. I hate to lose friends and brands that I believe in and have worked with, but the reality is, you know, people are making tough decisions about natural fibers versus synthetics. We're on the natural fiber side. We believe we have the right costs. We work with the other natural fiber products. We don't believe that, you know, fur is going away. It's becoming and continuing to become a luxury product that's profitable for businesses that are in the business.
There's another question. This one is from Jasmine. How has the culling of mink in Denmark affected Saga Furs business and the fur business as a whole?
In general, it's one of the saddest things that I've ever seen, that a government in Denmark made a decision not based upon science, but emotion, overreacted and basically destroyed a country's industry. Denmark was the largest producer of mink. There was no science to support this. And they acted irresponsible of the agriculture community. They have offered to compensate the farmers, and that compensation is going to put tremendous strains in Denmark on both their healthcare system and their education system. They basically put out 1,200 legitimate farms. So I think there's a price to be paid. There's a trial going on in Denmark now. But what that did was reduce the number of pelts in the world. I think it had some effect to increase the prices of the remaining pelts. It certainly put Saga as really the remaining auction house in a stronger position. But even though our business improved from this, we feel extremely disappointed that some sort of non-scientific decision was made to destroy all these families and communities that have existed for close to 100 years. A very bad decision.
There's a question from Ava. Ava has an old mink fur coat that belongs to her mother. She's wondering where in New York City she can sell it or shorten it to fit her.
Well, you're going to have a very exciting time. The fur market and the craftsmen are located on 7th Avenue, and there are factories that specialize just in resale and repair and remodeling. So if you address this to faculty after the call, offline, I will give you some resources to go visit.
Great. Another question from Hope. You mentioned vintage genuine fur garments. What are your suggestions as to how to repurpose these vintage garments?
Part of our sustainability strategy is also to sustain the craft of making of a fur. I think we in the fashion world are all suffering with the lack of people that really want to cut and sew products. So whether it's a fur coat, a leather coat, or a wool coat, we are losing those skilled workers. So I think to take a vintage coat is a fun experience, to go into a factory and to speak to a craftsman, maybe a second or third generation furrier, who could then, really translate your vision of a vintage coat into something modern that you would enjoy wearing, today. So I think it's really something that is an active part of the fur business. I think a lot of people are taking family heirlooms and reinventing them either into apparel or homeware, pillows or blankets. So, be happy to send people in the right direction. It is truly a fun experience, and it's so interesting to see these craftsmen and what they could do with the raw material.
And we'd love to hear a little bit about the marketing. How do you deliver the message of ethical treatment?
Sustainability, ethical treatment, certification is the cornerstone of what we do. Pre-pandemic, I spent one week a month in Europe. Due to the pandemic, we've learned all about Zoom and Teams. And we have constant communication with the sustainability managers of the brands and the leading department stores. So it's something that is on our plate every day. It kind of enters in almost every conversation that we have. An interesting point that I've tried to come to grips with is everybody wants to be sustainable, but nobody wants to pay for it. So in order to really market a sustainable product, you as a company or a CEO of a company really have to have a strong commitment behind it. So I can't tell you how many conversations I have with brands or designers, and they want the whole program, but they want to just include it in the price, but they don't want the price to go up. So there's kind of a business decision going on about sustainability. The one thing we don't believe in, the one thing we fight against is greenwashing. I mean, we really believe, especially with natural fibers and furs, that what we say has to be what it is, based upon science and research. And that's why, as an industry in Saga, we work with 7 universities around the world, kind of researching our claims, and also being a public company, we have to be very careful about our claims because it could affect shareholder price. So, make the commitment, tell it the way it is. We're not 100% perfect, but we get up every day trying to improve our supply chain and our supply chain management.
I think we have time for maybe one more question or so. This one is from Kelly. Do you think we will see a turnaround on the public sentiment of fur? Whose responsibility is it to educate the public on the positive social impacts of fur for Indigenous communities?
For Indigenous communities, I think I could use an hour to respond to that one. It's the responsibility of the fur industry, and we have trade associations to take these messages global. But I think we have come to recognize that it's only not fur that has this responsibility. So we have to network with the other products like the leather industry that are greatly under attack. We have to be able to work with the wool and the cashmere people, or the alligator people, or the ostrich people, or the down feather people. I mean, we're going through a period where there's decisions made on emotion, not based upon facts and science, and it's not based upon the consumer preferences. I mean, consumers continue to buy and love and wear their fur, and decisions are made to stores to drop it or designers to drop it. So it's going to be an ongoing issue. As far as Indigenous people, they have been making a lifestyle based upon hunting and trapping, for since the beginning of time. And I think it's unfair of people sitting in the city to make a decision about an Inuit in Canada, or a trapper in Wisconsin. I think we have to protect their ways of life. We have to understand that they have respect for the animals, and they've been hunting and trapping, for forever. So we can't make blanket decisions based upon emotion and try to change an end of life. I mean, we talk to trappers here, we talk to trappers in Europe, we talk to hunters around the world. They have issues in Australia now with the control of the kangaroo population. I mean, there are issues, and wildlife management is certainly an important responsibility of the fur trade, but also of the sustainability community. It's one of those projects that we all agree we could work together on.
Great. I'm going to have one more question. It looks like Marcel from LIM College has a hand raised. So if you want to state your question, you can take yourself off mute.
Hi, thank you, Sabrina. And hi, Charlie. My question is, why have some organizations blurred the lines between animal rights and sustainability when fur, by your standards and mine for that matter, is seemingly better for the environment?
Well, I think the discussion is, there are two terms that often get confused, is animal rights and animal welfare. And the animal rights movement is against use of any animals. So for scientific research, for eating your steak or drinking your milk, or wearing any products. Animal welfare is what we as the industry practice, and that's providing the best possible humane care for the animals. I think we're good in the science. We're not good at the communications. I think it's, every meeting I've ever attended in my business career, last 5 minutes, we always agree that we have to communicate better. But we as a natural fibers industry really have to coordinate our efforts and get our messages out. We have to stop using plastics. We have to stop using these synthetics. They're killing us. They're clogging our landfills. They're in our food supply chain. natural products that are supervised, that come from certified supply chains, that have independent audits, is something that we could live with forever. I mean, we have to understand what we're doing here and what these, some of these irresponsible decisions that are being made by certain designers or retailers around the world.
Thank you for that question, Marcel.
Yep.
Charlie, thank you so much for being here with us today. This was a really interesting talk, and I've enjoyed it. I'm sure everyone else has as well.
Good. Well, thank you for the opportunity. I know fur is always an exciting topic, both positive and negative, but I think it's really crucial to share the information and make our decisions, on the facts and the science moving forward. So thank you, Sabrina, and everybody else on the panel.
Thank you both so much, Charles, Sabrina.